Last week I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I think it's I'm not even sure we are on. It doesn't appear. There we go. Let's see.
No, we're still in the green room.
Yeah, I'm going to put us back. I'm just going to bring us in because it started to
Okay.
go out and then it's there's a big long delay. So I'm just going to bring the two of us in and
Fire it
see
up.
if
Let's go.
yeah. Let me see if I can get this thing off my screen. There we go. Going to be editing this one.
A little bit. Whenever you're ready to start, we're
Oh,
good.
we are started.
Oh,
So if you've been watching the funny stuff, anybody who's watching us right now, or if you're watching the replay,
it's funny.
we had a little glitch in getting started today, and some of the stuff I have set up isn't working the way it should, but we have alternatives. So here we are. Hi, BJ. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning. Good to see you. Um, I've been since we talked last week about the weather ending the conversation. I would just like to say it's been snowing here for 4 days. Yet we have no accumulation. And I wanted to say about Brett Widman, who's out in Buffalo, has I think somewhere around 6 feet of snow on
Mm-hmm.
top of his house. Uh, it would have been the right day to have him on, except the kids and the dog and everybody is going crazy.
Yeah,
But we have a better guest anyway, so
there you go.
let's just
Well, I grew up in Syracuse, so I know snow, and I know Buffalo well enough since I went to Buffalo State. And yeah, it's definitely that you get in those snow bands, and it really does change. You can be, half a mile, a block from, a foot
wow.
and or an hour to an inch an hour. So yeah, it's wild, uh, it's going to take them a while to get out. Even for Buffalonians, it's going to take a while for them to get out of that. So,
Well, when they
well, let's
start measuring snow in feet rather
yeah,
than in, you could get 8 to 10 inches. Well, that sounds daunting, but you could get 3 to 6 feet. Eh, that's a different deal.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. Well, let's get our guest in here
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
go.
See that?
Oh, let me do. You can't see him. Let me change him and bring him in here. There we
That's
go.
the best kind of dentist, the one that you never see.
Yeah, and I'll get you centered here in a second, Mike. So there we go.
We have
Well,
Dr.
BJ,
Mike
we have
Murphy.
accumulation here. Go
What were
ahead.
you saying?
I said
No,
we have
you.
accumulation here. We got about 4 inches on the ground.
Do you really? Oh, yeah. It's we just have enough to make it look like it's winter started, but that's the way it goes. Um, what's going on in the volleyball world in Prentice right now, in way northern Wisconsin? I know here we've just gone through tryouts and teams are forming, but what's going on up there?
Club season is starting. Where we are, we have most of the athletic girls that play volleyball play basketball too, so it's tough for them to play two sports at one time. It's an issue we run into every year. So I have a couple that are going to play club because in Medford they only practice on Sundays and then they play on Saturdays. But they're focused on basketball, which is fine. I like the fact that they're doing multiple things. The
Yeah,
athletes we have kind of carry all the sports, so that's the hand we're dealt.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, so we're bringing you on and to talk about dealing with injuries on a team, and I know it's a little bit of a fresh wound for you because you just kind of went through this with your team. But I think that makes it almost more relevant. Like, every coach, if we think about it, every youth coach or certainly high school or college coach is going to go through some portion of dealing with either a brief or even a long-term injury. And just talking through that, I think, would be beneficial for people. And you guys, you can kind of tell your story. I know yours, the injury you guys uh, suffered as a team was an end of season. That's the worst kind, of course, but just kind of walk us through what happened and then how you kind of dealt with what you were doing.
Well, I'll start with the story. My middle blocker broke a collarbone a week before regionals playing powder puff football, and she
Hmm.
leads Division 4 in blocks this year. So obviously a pretty talented girl. Now I got to back up to the backstory. The first year I coached, one of my players pulled a hamstring pretty bad playing powder puff football. And as I got to know the school and got to know the programs, I realized the football players weren't allowed to play volleyball as part of their homecoming routine. So the football boys play volleyball, the volleyball girls play football. And when I asked why, it was because the football coach wouldn't let them play because he was afraid they'd get injured. So the non-sexist in me said, well, then the volleyball girls aren't going to play football. Problem solved. And for 8 years, they didn't. Last year, the athletic director came to me and said, can the girls please play football? Because without them, there's not going to be powder puff football this year. And I
Good.
begrudgingly relented because the football boys were allowed to play volleyball now. And I wasn't going to let the sexism thing roll where the girls got to play but the boys wouldn't. So push all that aside. Last year they played, this year they played. My middle blocker broke her collarbone. The school didn't call me. None of the girls called me. I got to work because of my son, who's a junior, called me and said, Dad, they're all afraid you're going to be mad. So nobody would pick up the phone and call me to tell me this accident happened. But as I found out later, it was a fluke. I mean, she could have tripped over her own 2 feet walking in the hallway. And so fast forward to this year, as BJ knows, Steve was kind of checking in on us. We had a really good team this year. We had the best record in my 11 years when it was finally said and done. So we had a state caliber team, I thought. And losing Carissa was huge. It was. I found out on a Friday, what was it, BJ? A week before regionals, I think, started?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
So I was devastated. I was ticked off. I was upset, and I rewrote the book on volleyball. I took my 3 offensive threats and I was going to put them in a triangle and fit the other middle and setter and around them and some crazy substitutions. And Saturday in fact, I emailed both of you or texted both of you, as a matter of fact, and by the way, thank you, about what to do because it was, I don't have depth. We're a small Division 4 school. I have 19 girls that play volleyball. We have starters and we have whatever else. I mean, there's not. I don't have Aaron Rodgers waiting in the wings behind Brett Favre. So I went through a lot, and by Sunday I kind of realized changing everything was going to accomplish nothing. And by Monday, and when I got to practice, the girls, it was almost devastating the way they were. And I realized it was all because of me. They were so afraid to fail. And I said, you know what, girls, we're going to be fine. We have one person out on a football team. If your quarterback gets injured, you don't put the offensive lineman at quarterback. You put a backup quarterback in, right? So I got a backup middle. I got a freshman who's on the JV team. And I told my starters, I said, the pressure is not on her. The pressure's on you. Because Carissa going out, she averages 1.2 kills per set. She averages 1 block per set, even though she's leading Division 4. So there's 2 points we need to make up. And I told my outsides, and I told my setter, and I told my libero, and I told my right side, I said, you guys need to pick it up. We're not going to put pressure on this freshman coming in and expect her to perform at this senior's level. It's just not happening. And that was Monday. Tuesday, we had our conference crossover. We have 6 teams in the Merriwood North and 6 teams in the Merriwood South. And we, at the end of the year, before regionals start, the first team in the North plays the first team in the South, second plays the second, and so on. And we played a team from the South that we'd already lost to this season. And we lost the first 2 sets and came back and won the next 3. And you guys, if you're around volleyball for a week, you understand that is rare. So to see the excitement, first set was bad, second set was better, third set we won, and it was like somebody put gasoline in the tank for these girls. They realize, okay, you know, my outside stepped up a little better, my right side stepped up a little better, my libero stepped up a little better, my setter, who we've been harping on for 3 years now to take a ball over once in a while just to keep the other team on defense, started to do it. And we've coached it and coached it and coached it. And she's so afraid to not get the outside hitter a kill, or so she so wants them to succeed that she won't give herself success. And it was, everybody stepped up 5%. It wasn't like, you know, somebody went from 2 kills a game to 15 kills a game. It was like a little bit of each girl. And we won that set, or we won that match, and then we rolled through regionals at 9-0. It was 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. And it was fun.
Yeah, that was going to be my first question, and you've already answered it. Do you readjust the entire lineup, and make 4 or 5 people uncomfortable, or do you just stick somebody in and everybody's a little bit uncomfortable, but most of the people are still in their same positions while one kid is really figuring it out, and that would have been my notion as well.
Like I said, I went through everything, BJ. In fact, I talked to you, I talked to Steve, and by that practice on Monday, I couldn't see taking my 4-year starter outside hitter and putting her at middle. I mean, she would have done well because she's that good of an athlete. But when you're talking about regionals and sectionals in Wisconsin, you're talking about getting to be the elite teams, right? So to take her out of her comfort zone where she's seen the ball come at her umpteen thousand times in practice and in games, and now to move it and to know that the girl next to her isn't the one who always digs the ball to the left or takes the ball out of zone 3. She I really want the gamut, but for our team this year, it was stay in the comfort zone, put one girl in there who's the deer in headlights, and bless her heart, she did, but it really kind of woke up a little bit of competitiveness in her. And her mom even said something to me yesterday. Now that she's playing basketball, wow, that really seemed to spark a little something in her. So now she's a freshman with starting time under her belt. So what's her sophomore, junior, and senior year going to be like? Maybe it's a whole big learning curve for her that I wouldn't have done in this without the injury to Carissa.
Yeah, and that's a great line of thought. To me, coaching high school, I always felt like, and even college is the same way, maybe even the pros, I don't know. Can we learn something from that injury and getting that player in earlier? It was a regular practice for us to, when we had a match that we sort of knew we were going to win, or it was a match that didn't matter, we got players in earlier, but never under real highly stressful situations like your player just went through. Do you think that's a make or break for them? Like, is the girl going to get in there? Could she completely fold, or is it just so beneficial for her to be in a match when it's critical that she can learn and really flourish?
I think it depends on the coach, and I'm going to pat myself on the back in this particular situation. Maybe I should have pushed harder. I don't know. But I took, just knowing her, the little bit I did, I took the pressure completely off of her and put it on the rest of the starters. And I said, you guys need to step up. We're not going to expect her to do things that a senior who's played for 3 years as a starter to do. I mean, we can't expect that. I think if I had said, Kayla, it's up to you. You got to carry this team. All the pressure's on you to do this. I think she would have folded. I think it would have been catastrophic for our team. And I really think my senior leadership would have been pissed off at me, to be frank.
Yeah. Yeah. We had the exact same situation. We had a 6'2" middle all conference, probably all state level kid, broke her arm, broke her collarbone in the powder puff game, and I had a really hard time restricting those kids from playing. I could never do it. I encouraged them not to play, but if they wanted to play, it was up to them. And she got tackled in a game that was supposed to be flag. 9 days later, she was ready to play again, even having that broken collarbone. She got a doctor's approval to play, and I didn't play her, but um, it was at the same time of the year as you. You're playing that regional. You got probably your best player, and she's sitting on the bench, and even ours, she was cleared to play, but it was obvious she couldn't move her arm the way she needed to. She played a couple days later, but just yeah, the rest of the team was really my focus. Like you said, how does the rest of the team react to it? Can they do their jobs, or could they do it just a little bit better? Um, that's where we went. It sounds like you did the same thing.
Yeah, I did this year. The the girl that got hurt was pretty great about helping the freshmen, reads and angles and stepping up a little bit. And from that standpoint, she's still out. She won't be cleared to play basketball until the end of December. She had surgery and plates and screws and everything.
Wow.
So
Ooh,
it was a
really?
multi-break fracture, displacement, the whole 9 yards. But she had a great, and the funny part about her year was she started out as I think her 2-year starter in middle, and she's 5'11", 5'10", 5'11", and 95 pounds soaking wet. And she started the year hitting balls up. There was nothing behind it. And we have a strength training program in my program. I firmly believe in strength training. They have to do it during the season. I hope they do it out of season, but they have to during season. And she started hitting balls down. She was hitting. She's tall, so she blocks well, but she started hitting balls and became an offensive threat. And when she went out, she could have folded too. And she's obviously distraught that it happened. And like you said about being torn up about letting the girls play, I really wrestled with that this year because I was ticked off that she got hurt, but it was a fluke. It wasn't a tackle like you said with your girl. It was just two girls going up for a ball and one tripped over another one and down she went. So I wrestle with letting them play in the future versus, okay, it's high school. They only go through high school once. They only get to do this once. They're not going to go play professional volleyball in Greece or wherever. So do I forbid it? Do I not? I have to step back from my role as wanting to win and loving volleyball to there's more to these girls than just volleyball. I mean, there's a whole lot more to them than just volleyball. There's other sports that they play. There's school. There's the high school experience, and that's the tough one for me this year. That really has been, especially with a good team. Now, if we were 7-25, would I have a different outlook? I don't know. I can't answer that, but this is the best season I've had in my coaching career. So it's tough when that goes down. I mean, did that cost us going to state? I don't think so. Did it cost us the sectional semifinal? Maybe. But playing the what if game, I mean, you do with what you do. And like I said earlier, I need to look to the future with that freshman now who has suddenly got a little bug in her about wanting to play volleyball. And hey, can we have open gyms? And hey, can we, what's next year going to bring and summer leagues and all that kind of stuff. So, 5 years from now, ask me the same question. It may end up being a good thing. Who knows?
That balance is really hard to strike, especially at small schools, I feel. How much do you plan for the future as opposed to what are we doing today? That's a constant teeter-totter you're on of how much can we, how much do we push right now to get better with these younger kids, or are we going for a win? Like, how do you think about that when you're coaching at a school like you have?
Well, I think my takeaway from this year is going to be to get some of the younger girls on the court earlier than I would have. I during regionals I put some freshmen on our varsity team. Yeah, I give the girls opportunity every year once the regular season's done for JV that if you want to stick around and practice with us, great. You're going to get more playing. You're going to get more court time, at least in practice. It helps us with the varsity team to have at least 12 girls so we can play 6-on-6. And every year I have 2 or 3. This year I think it was 5 that stuck around. And so during regionals, I put them on the court and just give them some playing experience. And now, we're winning matches 25-4, 25-8, 25-10. It's not, as you said, high pressure, high stress situations, but at least it gives them the view of the future that if they can do X, then I'm going to put them on the court. I mean, we all know it comes down to passing and serving, and we stress that daily, that they need to pass. So a lot of my drills now, the girls that want to be on the court, I can tell who it is because they're the first ones on the passing side. They want to get a hand on the ball, and maybe they're not good at it this year, but they know what it's going to take to play for me in the future. And I'm always looking down the road. You have to, because if I focus on just this year, then 2 years from now, maybe we're terrible. And I don't want that. We've kind of built a successful program over the last few years, and it's always been about pushing for the future. And I told my libero, who was a junior this year, she was really, really upset that Carissa got hurt because she kind of felt that was our hurdle. She was a freshman when we went to state. She played on the team. She really wanted to get back there this year, and she thought that was it. She said, "Well, we're done." That was her mentality. And I said, "You know what? She's not going to hurt us. She's going to be up in the middle. She's going to jump. You're going to play defense around her. You know where she's going to be. She's not going to do anything out of that ordinary. So you got to play defense around her." And she did. I mean, she's one of the best liberos she's the best libero I've ever coached. She's only a junior. So look at next year now, Leah. Next year, you're going to be a senior. You're going to be even better. She's going to have some experience in stressful situations, and you're now going to kind of know where she's going to block, and you play defense around her. So it's just one little step for the future for next year.
And don't play in the dang football game next year, libero, right?
Right.
How's
she's going to ban them from playing. I won't have to say a word. She's not going to let anybody play next year.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that did change things for us too, because all of a sudden players weren't playing the powder puff game because of that injury. How did your player deal with the injury? How was she coming around, and how's her head right now?
She, she's a pretty introverted girl. Um, she really took it hard. She took it hard that she let her team down. Um, she took it hard that she wasn't going to get to finish out her senior year. Whatever our success was at the end, was it regional title? Was it sectional title? Was it Macon State? Um, so there was lots of tears, lots of hugs. Um, and like I said earlier, the fact that she was on the bench kind of coaching the freshman middle and just giving her points of view, because if you've played the game, you know that on the court view is a lot different than on the bench or on the sidelines view. And making that read on knowing how a particular player on the opposite team plays, how she hits, when to cheat one way, when to cheat the other way. If a team has a strong outside but a no right side attack, or the setter is 4'10" and is front row, you really don't need to cheat to the left. And just some of those cues that um, I've probably given, but it's one of those things where maybe it means more coming from a senior who's sitting there next to you versus a coach who's yelling at you. I'm a loud guy, and sometimes they perceive that as yelling, where I'm trying to get a point across in a crowded gym. So it was from my freshman standpoint and from my standpoint, it was, she turned it into a positive. I don't think I could have turned it into a positive. I could have dwelt on the negative of it, but she turned it into a positive, and was really, really helpful down the road. And I think she and I kind of bonded a little more because of it. I don't want to say we bonded because she got hurt, but just now suddenly her view as a coach sitting on the bench versus a player changed her a little bit and gave her a little bit more. And who knows, maybe someday she'll be, coaching a team. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a cool observation. Um, I know as a dentist, you deal with death and disease every day. So how have you ever had a injury, like a season ending injury, or have you dealt with that personally?
Oh yeah. First of all, let me say I've never had a patient die. But I've torn both of my Achilles tendons, and you were there for one of
Oh
them
wow,
at the Cat
wow.
2 clinic. I tore it. Remember that?
Yes, yes. Now I remember. Okay. So you've done both Achilles.
Both
How
Achilles.
and yeah. Anything else?
Back surgery.
Yeah, and back surgery. And you still play?
I do.
Ah, yeah, you guys are crazy. I the first time that you tear an Achilles and you're coming back, how are you, like, what's going on in your mind to come back from that sort of an injury?
When I tore my right Achilles, I was 38 years old, and I was backpedaling to make an approach, backing up. Ball came over the net, going to make an approach, planted, pushed off, and boom, it tore. And I looked at one of my teammates and I said, "Who just hit me?" He said, "What'd you do?" I thought one of the players on
Yeah.
the court next to us came across my court and hit me in the back of the leg.
Isn't that the
And
telltale?
had surgery.
I
That's
did the
the
same
Achilles
thing
injury.
playing indoor soccer. Same exact
Yep.
thing.
Yep,
Who hit me? There's nobody near you.
Yep.
yep,
I'm like, oh, okay. Then they're like, you gonna go back in?
yep.
I'm like, I don't think so.
And didn't even know what an Achilles tendon rupture was even like. And, I was Superman. I was in my 30s and nothing could hurt me. And had surgery, went through physical therapy, and came back and played again, and thought this will never happen again. Well, then I was a little older, in my 40s, and I was in Milwaukee at a CAP USA volleyball coaching clinic. And because I'm a lefty, the guy running the clinic wanted me to demonstrate the footwork. So I was on the other side of the net and backpedaled and pushed and approached and swung and backpedaled, approached. And the third time I did it, boom, my left Achilles ruptured, and the everybody in the stands went, "Oh God!" And the cameraman was on the floor behind me, said, "What was that noise?" And the guy running the clinic turns around and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm demonstrating an Achilles tendon rupture, just so you guys can see what it's like." Because I knew then
Yeah,
what
I
happened. And
Once it happens, you know.
yeah.
so I had the unfortunate problem to call my wife and tell her that I did it again, and she couldn't believe I was playing ball again. And so I went through surgery and rehab, and it was hell the second time. I mean, it was just absolute a nightmare. And the age doesn't help. And the physical therapist told me I'd never play again, and that was as devastating as the injury itself, because I it's therapy for me. I mean, I love playing volleyball. I love coaching volleyball now. I can't play like I used to, but I like to think I can sometimes, and I pay for it the next day when I play. But when COVID hit and they shut our schools down, I have a volleyball court in my garage, that I put the standards in when we built it 7 or 8 years ago, and never really did anything. And I bought a sport court when COVID shut down. Found one used and laid it. And I swear I finished the thing on June 1st of 2020 at noon. It was I think it was a Sunday. And by 1 o'clock, I had 20 girls playing volleyball in my garage. And, I'm sure that's against all COVID protocols at the time, but, they love it too. And it's just, to tear the Achilles and be out. I know what Chris is going through. I mean, if she has any love of the game, and I know she does, then to lose out on your senior year and lose out on regionals, and she was there with us, but not get to play is just, that's devastating to the mind.
It's funny.
That's really hard.
But I think
Go, Steve.
reinforcing to her how important she was to the team on the bench, encouraging that freshman, is a big deal. Not an injury related story, I guess indirectly. So my son was right side setter, and they decided to play a 5-1 with the other setter, so he's up playing right side. He's about 6'2", and wasn't a real strong hitter, but smart. And he had a cramp after a long day at a tournament, and they put a 6'5" basketball player in there, and he never saw the court again. And and the kid wasn't that good. He was just good at slapping the ball around, but because he was hitting the ball in random places, he could score better than my son. I'm like, if I'm the coach, I gotta, I can't, I gotta go with what I see. And he took the basketball player under his wing. It took a couple of days. He was pissed off for a little bit, but he got over it pretty quick. And God love, one of the parents came up afterward and said, "I saw what happened to your son, and I think he's the most valuable player on this team because I saw what he did after the fact." And I tell my players that story. My son appreciates that and is still involved in the game. But I think, letting them know how important they were, even that's a good story for later in your life. The girls are going to talk about what we did that year, and so is Carissa. So I think it's unfortunate, but they made the best of it, which is just outstanding.
Yeah, it was a great. I think, like Steve, sorry, BJ, like you texted me when we were talking about it when the injury happened. You said, just think of the memories 5 years from now. What they're going to talk about. It's more. I'd rather the memory be, Carissa got hurt and we played a freshman and she scored a point. Remember that one point she had, woohoo, versus coach was a jerk and he yelled at us and made us run in practice. But, God forbid that becomes their memory. And your son, the same, he contributed whether he was on the court or not. And Carissa certainly contributed off the court in a way that I wouldn't have forecast. I wouldn't see that coming at all. But that's, and if she hadn't gotten injured, that's a whole nother chapter that would never have been written.
Yeah, that's the thing. The story writes itself, right? I mean, you can control it to some degree, but there are things that are just out of your control that are going to happen. I think it's a great argument for having players play a lot of different ways and a lot of different positions. I mean, we all know from playing on the beach, you learn how to play on the left and the right and in the sun and the sand and the rain and whatever else. But sometimes the indoor players, I feel like, get a little spoiled, and I feel like it would really benefit them to do kind of everything, just in case, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've talked to my middle school coach about all positions. We get so hooked into a girl is 5'10", she's a middle, and I went to a Karch Karai coaching clinic years ago, and Luca, I can't remember Luca's last name, but his assistant coach for the U.S. team at the time said, take your stud and put her outside and set her the ball. Well, if you got two studs that can hit outside, if I could rewrite some of my coaching history, I had a girl 6'6" who played in college who started playing outside in college. Well, why didn't I put her outside in high school? She's tall, so she has to be middle. Well,
right.
If you don't have a perfect passing team, middle hitting is barely existent. So I should have put her outside, and who knows how we would have been different. But I do a lot of that where, okay, my middle's hurt in practice today, as a joke. We make her quote unquote hurt. Now somebody else has to step in. Who's going to set, or who's going to play middle? Who's going to be whatever position is injured today? And that takes some of the younger girls and give them a shot at filling in. And like I said, when I keep my JV around, we do a lot of varsity versus varsity. So the three on the front row on one side of the net are versus varsity on the other side of the net. The back row is JV, and then we switch them. So JV versus JV at the net. And so they get reps. And of course, I put JV versus varsity just to give them a clue of what the higher level is like. And the only way they get better is by playing somebody better. You're not going to get better playing a team that's worse. What good does that do?
The other thing you see is they surprise you. It's like I've gone to Open Division twice at Nationals, and back-to-back years. It just the line. It was 14 boys, so 14 boys is a little bit like the old West. You get what you get. The first year I went, I had all these, terrific athletes who were just a bear to coach. Just behaviorally, not the greatest group you'd ever want. In the second year, I had this overachieving group of guys who you would go, can't get there. And we were in this match. I knew if we won the match, we got a bid. And we lost the first set 12-25. And we're down like 10-2 in the second set, 2-10 in the second set. And I took my number one outside out. And, this is where I need to do a better job as a coach. I said, I brought this kid, Leo, who was just my little energy guy, who was the guy who played against the ones, right? And what I found out is that my outside had a migraine, didn't tell me, couldn't really get anything done. Leo brought a spark, and all of a sudden we win the match. We're going to nationals in the National Open Division because Leo was on the bench and ready to play. And, so you never know. And that's where it's important to give them enough touches so you can throw them in there if you have to. and they surprise you if they've got a good attitude. And I was like, hey, Leo, you can do this, and he was like, yeah, all right, fine, sure, no problem. So you just don't know, and setting yourself up for that, however you do it. I love your approach of having it, a key player injured for that practice. I love that. I'm going to steal that because I think that's a good way to go. Because I've had it happen to me too. I had a kid who didn't play much and didn't get to practice much because he was always babysitting his sister. And my middle turned his ankle just before a match. I'm like, sorry, you're playing. Go get him. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, just play middle. Just do the best you can, and it worked out all right.
That's an extension of we, I play when we play, I'll make bad calls. I'll blow the whistle on a perfectly good set and say it was a lift or a ball that was in. I'll call it out. But Mike's way of doing this is really an extension of that. It's like, hey, we lost this player totally. Now what do we do? I really love that idea.
Oh, I do the same with the girls, and foot fault. If I got JV playing varsity and they're up 6 or 8 points, and my toughest server is back on the line, I call a foot fault. She's 4 feet from the line, but I do that just to break it up, and they're going to have to deal with bad calls once in a while. Or maybe not that bad a call, but they're going to have to deal with it. And how do you bounce back from it for the next point? And I think they've kind of caught on to me. Especially the varsity girls that have played for a couple of years, they know if I call a net or if I call a double and and it wasn't, they know it's to break it up. But you have to challenge them. You have to challenge them somehow. And if I could challenge them by playing against 6 girls that are as good or better than them, I'd do it. But I can't do that. So then you got to make them earn it somehow, right?
Yeah, I agree. I love that idea. It's in doing these podcasts, however many of them we've done now, Steve, almost 40 of them. There's been a couple of moments, and that's one of them that I've never thought of. Is just taking somebody out and saying, all right, now you have to deal without having this player. It would, I think it would really benefit teams because, I don't know. I mean, I coached high school volleyball for 18 years, and I think we had three, maybe no, four. We had 4 season-ending injuries. So it's going to happen every couple of years. You're going to have that issue, right? You have to learn how to deal with it.
The extension of that for a coach is to be thinking that way ahead of time. And, you give them that situation, but you also really need to be thinking about, okay, and I would draw this from the thing we've discussed about Karch in the national team. It's letting the players know ahead of time, if you can, what their role is. I come back to Annie Drews a lot because I look at that and go, what a great example of somebody who not only was the backup, but knew her role and was able to step in and was, played at a ridiculously high level. And you're not going to in our world, we're not going to have that player behind your number one that's going to be as good as your number one. But we're going to have players who need to be ready to step in, and it's figuring out how to get everybody to do that. That's one of my goals this year, is to be clearer on goals and roles, particularly the roles. Here's what I need you to do, and be ready.
Well, I don't know if you've ever had that moment where you're up, 21-7 or something like that, and you look at one of your bench players who hasn't got much time and say, "All right, you ready to go in?" And they say no.
Yeah.
That's what you do. So and with Carissa this year, I've kind of clarified that with some of the younger girls of, all right, now at such and such time, if we're at this particular point in the match, I'm going to put you in. So they know it's coming. You know, I don't know how I would be as a player not knowing it was coming, sitting there and cheering and thinking you're never going to play, or okay, I'm going to play if such and such happens, or if somebody gets hurt, then it's me that's going in. You know, do you pep talk yourself a little bit that way? I mean, I would if okay, we're down this score, we're up this score. I know I'm getting ready to go in. Okay, I need to get ready to go. I think I would be giving myself a little pep talk. I know I did it with Kayla, who went in behind Carissa, and I said, you know, just go in, stay out of the net. That's all I ask. You know, simple things that she can control. Don't put the weight of the world on her shoulders and have her fold, and just, you know, go in and have fun. I've said let's have fun more this year than I've probably said in the last 10, and they did. I mean, what a fun season we had, and just just playing volleyball. How many comebacks we had this year, and then of course to go and win that match where we were down two and come back and win the next three was absurd that we won that, but we did. But you know, it's fun to do that. And of course, the sectional semi we lost. We lost in the fifth set, but they played so well, and that's all you can ask for, right? I mean, we lost, and it's not like they folded. They were playing ridiculous volleyball, and the other team just happened to score a couple more points. I can live with that.
We as adults, I ask coaches this question a lot. Like, how many? You're playing on a team. Most of them say, yep, we're playing a team. You're playing what, Tuesday nights, you're playing Saturdays, you're going to nationals or whatever. How many drills are you running? Like, what do you do in your practices? Like, well, we don't practice. Yeah, you're right. You don't. So all the practice you did as a kid is all the practice you needed? Or is it the opposite, where maybe we could have them play more as kids and learn how to deal with the winning and losing, as opposed to running all these crazy drills?
You know, probably the last 4 years, I think since I came out of Cat 2, the last 4 years, 4 or 5 years, we don't do drills anymore. I mean, we play volleyball, and it's some screwy scoring versions, or some you know, little points get big points, whatever. But it's 95% of our training is 6-on-6 or 6-on-3 or something,
Yeah.
where the net's there, and they have to. And for instance, if Carissa got hurt and I didn't have a freshman that was 5'10", 5'11", that could fill in that spot, and I had to put a 5'6" girl in to play middle, you're not going to have a middle blocker. So can our defense cover the court for that? And I think we can now. I wouldn't have said that 10 years ago, but I say that now, that we'll play defense. We've done that this year a couple times, where we have a team that has not the best outside hitter. So why double block her? Let's put 5 girls on defense, just let one person block her and cover the court better. And so you practice those kind of things and play a lot of defensive strategies. And they know coming into a match that if I make an adjustment in the middle of the match, they can make that adjustment. It's not something foreign where we've never done it. Well, yeah, that game of 6-on-3, you don't have any blockers up there, so you got to be able to dig the ball.
Yeah, I think that's probably, for me, my biggest thing now as a coach is finding what I would say is range. I want you to know the range of where you can hit. I want you to know the range of where you can pass. I want you to learn a range of positions, like expanding that. You know, people used to call it your volleyball education or your volleyball mindset or whatever, but it's learning the range of being able to play in, whether it's a small thing as hitting, setting, or a big thing as I'm playing this position or that one, or we only have 5 players on the court or 3 players on the court. Just expanding that range seems so critical to me. And maybe injury, just kind of to put a cap on this, maybe that's one of the better ways to deal with injury before it happens, is to help players find range, in case it does.
Well, what comes to mind to me from that is I was just thinking as you were talking about that, I'm like, I need to, again, I've been trying to think about ways to get my back row to read their cover on blocks better. And I'm almost thinking that I need to coach my front line and say, we're going to run now. We're going to run the random front line. The blockers are sometimes they're going to get there, and sometimes they're deliberately not going to get there or not going to go up, and you've got to see it and cover for that. Because I don't think they're looking for that. I think they're they're just not getting that read. And the other thing that came to mind was I took my son when he was 16 to like an adult open gym, and it was funny because he came away. We're driving back. He goes, "Dad, I got to give you old guys props. You got shots I've never seen before." I'm like, yeah, that's
Because
what
we
happens.
have to.
Yeah, it's.
Well, because at his age and level, it's just whale on the ball. I mean, I dare you to block me. Where this year,
right.
and I don't coach it enough probably, but getting the girls to once in a while with a big double block to do a tip or to do a angle to the zone 4 or to put one back in zone 1 with a push instead. And when they're just smoking balls, it's hard to really change that trajectory because there's not a whole lot in D4 Wisconsin that's going to double block that. They might get blocked once or twice, but when they're averaging 4 to 5 kills a set, how do you tell them to tip? And that's just, it goes totally against everything I have as a player because I'm a lefty, so I'm on the right side and just wailing. A lot of times middles don't close on me, or when I played, they can't get there. They're cheating to the outside hitter. They're not cheating to the right side.
It would be nice to have a lefty sometime in my career. It's been 30 some years of coaching. I've never had one.
I had 4
I've seen
this
a couple
year on the
of
JV
clinics.
team.
Yeah, I don't have any. I've never
4.
had one. It's the weirdest.
BJ, I played on a team years ago and back in Virginia that we had 5 lefties on the team, so we ran a reverse offense. So the setter set from the
like
left.
George Mason did. Yeah.
Yes.
Mason did that once upon a time. They were famous for it, but I know a couple of people have done it. Now I know one more.
2 more. Because I ran it. We were going to club, and we picked up a couple players because guys couldn't go, and we just band-aided a team together, and we had like 3 lefties. And I said, let's run a lefty offense because we're not going to be contending. We're just going to have fun. And what I learned from that is the boys came and said, "Hey, coach, in this rotation, can we run it straight and then transition to it after we get the receive? Because I think it'll transition better." And they were really and so. And I had a lefty middle and a righty middle, so I would flip them between sets. So the blockers who were getting used to the angles would have a whole different set of angles in the second set. And it worked okay. It wasn't great, but we had fun with it. And I learned some things that I had assumed that, I'm still would go back and redo it again because there's things that when we played that I'm like, oh, I missed an opportunity there. I could have done this. And so it was really fun. I often wonder why we always put our setter in the same place, but that's another story.
Well, it's finding range as well.
Yes.
We at Green Bay and they got this from the national team. They're moving the setter around once in a while. They put the setter here, put her there, and the target changes. And they're looking for range, and that range allows you, weirdly, I don't know why this works, but if you can pass to 4 different places, it makes you better at passing to the one place that you want it to go. Just having
Sure.
that expansion of range. So I don't know. I can't wait to coach a lefty. It's going to be fun when it happens one of these years. We're up against our hour, Steve.
Yes,
We're at the
absolutely.
end.
Well, Mike, I'm so glad you had the end of the season that you did, because when you reached out, I was like, wow, that's interesting, and it was fun to kind of watch what you managed to do after a setback like that. And the girls obviously have a great story, so I'm really happy for you and for them, and for next season, because now you got a middle that you're going to be able to work with.
Well, and again, a special thanks to you and BJ, because you really helped me at a time of need. I don't know who else I could have reached out to that would understand what I was going through, and it just to be able to use you guys as a sounding board really helped me a lot that weekend. I can tell you that.
We've all had those people, I mean, I was at Cap 3 out at the OTC, and one of the Cap coaches there helped me out in a moment where I just had some serious self doubt, and he gave me a couple of things to think about. That anytime I have trouble, I think about those couple of comments that he made, which has really helped. So it's almost I don't know. I'm almost happier that I could help you than if anything I said was of help. It's amazing, you know.
Well, we're going to end this, and we'll be back next week. Hopefully, if you have any comments in that, if you're watching this after the fact, drop a couple comments in. But Mike, thanks very much. Good luck with the club season. I don't do club anymore. I might get back to it, but right now I'm just doing open gyms for my boys and trying to get ready for the spring.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. See you guys.
See you
Take
later.
care.